Sadie, which one do you like? Which one do you like? Come on, help me decide. Which one? Oh yeah, you like the mission? Okay. All right, guys, what's happening? Season's winding down, and wow, it's been an incredible year for us for riding, and I'm really excited. This is a video that we planned to do at the beginning of the season. So here we are. You know, we're sort of entering and winding down the rest of our season, and I've got two of basically the top of the line helmets that are available for trail riders out there, and been really fortunate enough to run both of these this year. You know, a lot of the talk online that I've seen the last couple of years has really been surrounding this Mission helmet, and I really was interested in trying it when I saw one of our buddies had one of these last season. And then obviously we've got a lot of kilometers and riding done on the oxygen helmets themselves. So, you know, this year I really set out to make sure that I had both of them because I was really interested in seeing, you know, which one I would like better. And, you know, basically I've been able to put, you know, roughly just over 20,000 kilometers on the oxygen helmets. Obviously not as much on the carbon because I've just been running this one a little bit this year. And then, you know, spent a lot of the time this year running this new Mission carbon helmet. So again, by far the two top helmets that are out there, best helmets for sure that money can buy these days. And before I kind of get into the specifics, I really want to just sort of set the precedent for this video that this isn't going to be, you know, a what helmet is better than the other type of video. What we're really aiming to do with the channel is really, you know, we're fortunate enough to be able to get a lot of the products and actually just try them out and really put them to the test. But it's about bringing you guys the most detailed information that we can so that you can make your own informed decisions around which helmet actually makes the most sense for you. That's really it. And I know there's a lot of stuff out there around what's better. You know, there really is no best at the end of the day. You have to decide, you know, what's going to be the best based on your needs, right? So I want to start off this video by just saying, you know, we really sort of broke out a lot of our information that we're going to put together for you today into a couple of different categories. And the first one is really just a general category which covers things like weight, like price. Obviously comfort is another category that's super important. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the differences between comfort between the two. And then we looked also at design, and under design we think of things like aesthetics. How do they look? You know, what's the usability like from a rider perspective? And then also, you know, visibility is a big piece of it too. So I'll talk about some of the things that we noticed in terms of visibility between the two helmets as well. And then a big one for me is temps and like the internal temperature of the helmets, and ventilation is a big one. So I'll talk a little bit about, again, just some of the things that we noticed between the two of them. Another one, obviously Jesse and I are always talking through comms and sound and music, and all of that is a really big factor for us these days. We love the technology. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the differences between the sound and the helmets as well. Electric visors, so these are both plug-in, you know, plug-in helmets that deliver electric visors for no fogging, and we'll talk again about some of the differences that we noticed between the two as well. And then lastly, which is kind of one that no one really ever thinks about, is warranty and customer service. And we've actually had incidents with both of these, and I'll talk about those in detail as well, just to give you a bit of insight there as to what you can expect around warranty and you know, just some of the differences again between dealing with BRP and dealing with CKX. So in terms of like the actual weight between these helmets, they're roughly the same. I think you're talking, you know, absolute minute differences in terms of actual weight comparisons. They're basically the same. Overall, the Mission weighs a tad lighter than the oxygen helmet, and that was, again, something that when you're actually putting these helmets on your head, you're not going to notice the difference in terms of weight. In terms of price, they are priced differently, which you know, you should be aware of. So on retail for the BRP oxygen helmet, you're looking at $10.99 Canadian, and then for the Mission Carbon, you're looking at $8.99 Canadian. So definitely, you know, a couple $100 difference in price, which you know, might matter to some folks. So let's move on to comfort, and we definitely notice some differences in terms of how these helmets fit. So, and again, this is where, you know, it really is all about personal preference, right? That's the thing with sledding. When it comes to helmets, it's no different. You know, Jesse really found that for him and kind of his head, that the oxygen, he finds that it's a better fit for him. I actually found the oxygen, and even when I had my first one before I had the carbon, I found it a loose fit. I've got the right size. I tried large and I tried XL. XL was definitely the way to go. I actually found the carbon fits a little bit tighter than the regular version of the oxygen helmet. So I'm wearing an XL, but I still find this is a little bit loose fitting compared to the Mission. So again, make sure you try them on. The oxygen helmet feels more spacious on the inside, and Jesse actually prefers that. I actually don't like it as much. I feel like the helmet is actually almost sitting on my shoulders. I feel like it's tilted down a lot, and I feel like there's a huge amount of space in between my mouth and the visor. So this to me overall just feels like a much bigger fitting helmet versus the Mission, which is a nice tight fit. I mean, Jesse says sometimes he looks at me and my cheeks are compressed, but it's a tighter fitting helmet, kind of more what I like more is for my head, this seems like to be a better fitting helmet. The breath box in the Mission helmet is probably the biggest difference to me. The breath box, it's got that rubber piece over your mouth. Obviously that helps with how this helmet actually performs, but it makes it feel restrictive. Whereas in the oxygen, again, you kind of fully open on the inside of this helmet. So those are some of the differences that we notice just in terms of comfort. They're definitely different. They fit differently. Both, again, great helmets, but it's got to come down to what's going to really work better for your head. So let's talk a little bit about the design of these two helmets. And again, I'm going to focus in on some of the aesthetics and some of the features and kind of usability for both these helmets. Starting with the oxygen, I think the cool thing with the oxygen, obviously, one of the big things for us is safety. And when you're riding in snow dust, the oxygen actually just comes with that built-in LED light on the back of it, which is perfect. It's great for snow dust. And if you've heard and watched a lot of our videos this year, we always are talking about riding in snow dust for the guys who are behind, right? And this makes a huge difference. And also for night riding, the LED lights are honestly fantastic. Again, beautiful looking helmet. I like what they did. The carbon fiber design actually on the BRP I think is nicer. It's a little bit more subtle compared to the carbon fiber pattern on the Mission helmet. So that's certainly something that we notice is obviously different aesthetically. One of the other things too, the heated sun visor. This is the only helmet really from the two, or any helmet that we've seen out there, that actually has a heated area where that sun visor sits in, and it's basically never ever fogging over or iced over. So that to me, in terms of like a feature of the BRP oxygen helmet and where that sun visor actually sits is awesome. The other thing I really liked about the oxygen helmet this year is, again, this was different than the last one that I had, but it's got this double neck curtain feature. So it's a really nice way to fit the helmet. And on those super warm days, I mean, you don't even need a balaclava. This helmet curtain design for front and back, tucks right into your jacket, works really great. I really like that, that specifically on this helmet. So one of the things, and you know, I do wear glasses, but I don't wear glasses while I'm riding, and some of the guys in our crew do, and they found that for sure the BRP, for anybody that's wearing glasses, this is going to probably perform better and feel better in comparison to the Mission. So if you are a rider that has to wear glasses during the day while you're out there, the BRP is probably going to be a better choice for you. I'll give you the example of Andrew. You know, used to wear this kind of older motorcycle, I think it was like an HJC helmet, and he wears glasses, and when we got him into the oxygen helmet, he put them on. Fit perfectly. You just have to wait until the helmet actually climatizes properly on the inside. Once it does, you're good to go with glasses on. So that's that's going to be a really important factor for a lot of guys who are wearing glasses. I think one of the other things too that I did notice, I actually found the ability to deploy the sun visor on the oxygen with the little clip or kind of this little clip on the side here. It's actually easier to use in comparison to the one that's on the Mission helmet. So the one on the Mission helmet, I always found like I was always fumbling to kind of find this, and it's a slider. So I actually just preferred the placement of where that sun visor switches to sort of deploy the visor on the BRP helmet in comparison to the Mission. So again, it's a really small thing, but for me, again, I just found that instead of the slider, it was much easier to just put my thumb with a glove on and flick up and down the sun visor on the oxygen helmet. The one thing, if I look at both of these helmets, and I complained about this when I first saw this helmet, I really just never liked the design of the BRP oxygen helmet in terms of its aesthetics. To me, it just looks like it's a round bowling ball that they literally, cut out and then you throw it on your head. So I was never crazy about the actual look of this helmet. It's a little bit almost like an astronaut helmet, right? Is kind of what this reminds me of. And I think the design of the Mission, just overall from an aesthetic standpoint, to me, it just looks better. It's got much better lines. It's got kind of more sort of modern look to it, I think, in comparison to the BRP helmet. So I'll talk a little bit about, both these helmets I think work really well in terms of eating and drinking, and that's a big one. So you stop on the side of the trail, you pop your lid up, and really easy to grab a drink of Gatorade or eat out of them. So to me, that's a big thing. A lot of the older helmets, you couldn't do that. And even this Mission with the breath box, I actually really like the design because that breath box goes up as soon as you lift the visor. So either one of these work really well for eating and drinking, which is obviously important to us. And then I think the really cool thing too with the Mission is I bought the Black Ops visor, which makes this thing look pretty awesome. It's not an electric visor, but man, with the black optic shield on it, it looks really sweet. So again, I think just in the aesthetics department, I really, really love the look of the Mission. The front part basically of the nose guard, kind of one of the things on the chin here that we noticed is this really pops out quite frequently for us. It never really stayed in. So Jesse was having some issues where his would constantly sort of be pulling out. Mine seems to have stuck in, so it might just be his, but for the most part, I like the neck curtain that they've got in here. I don't like the fact that it's Velcroed like this. To me, it's a little bit chintzy. And again, it's not really like a full neck guard that actually can come down into your jacket. So I think they could have done a bit better job on the neck guard design. That's definitely better on the BRP helmet for sure. The one thing about the Mission that I noticed this year, which was really troublesome, was in super cold temps, I actually also found that this part of the front gets a lot of condensation up in kind of the mouth area. And it ends up being that this piece actually freezes, okay? And I had a lot of trouble getting this helmet on and off in like minus 25, minus 30 temps. So for me, that was a real big issue. Like I'm talking, to get this thing off my head, I would have to really give her to get it up and over and off of my face. So I found that really strange. And again, it's definitely because of the buildup that happens with the condensation around the mouthpiece. And that was, again, just this bottom curtain here would literally just freeze. And it made it that much more difficult to pull the helmet off my head. So struggle with that a little bit. It was definitely challenging, but again, once you get it inside for lunch, it thaws out and you're pretty much good to go. The other thing too, in terms of like overall design, so, you know, probably no surprise here, but there's no built-in LED light for, you know, like the Oxygen has. Now, we obviously have a solution for that, and we've been, you know, fortunate enough to team up with the guys from Bite Harder this year, and so we've added our own to this. So the Bite Harder helmet light is fantastic. All the guys in our crew ride with them. You know, we got introduced to this from the Intrepid Snowmobiler and his crew. They all ride with them. Super bright, super safe. In fact, it actually is brighter than the Oxygen helmet. So for us, you know, that's an add-on, but works really well. But again, the Mission just doesn't come with it. So you've got to buy that if you want it. I think one of the other things too is, you know, when you think about, I was talking a little bit about glasses and you're wearing glasses in the Oxygen, how much easier it is. It's a lot harder with the Mission helmet just because that breath box is there. So you can do it, but it's not going to be as comfortable. As soon as that breath box comes down, it's probably going to hit your glasses. Again, it's just not going to be as seamless as it is with the BRP Oxygen helmet. So again, for guys who really are concerned about glasses, it's probably not going to be the Mission for you, and the BRP Oxygen would be a better choice. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about visibility between these two helmets. And I would say the field of view is excellent on both helmets, but the BRP Oxygen helmet has a bigger visor and definitely has a bigger field of view. In fact, this, from any helmet on the market, has probably the best field of vision from any helmet that we've ever tried. So that is kind of the big thing with the Oxygen helmet. I would say it's a little bit less with the Mission. Is it that noticeable? Probably not. I mean, you're really only going to notice it if you're putting these helmets on and riding that day back to back. I mean, that's the reality of it. But definitely that, you know, in terms of overall field of vision and view, it's excellent on the Oxygen. Now, the big downfall for me with the Oxygen, I complained about it when I first saw the helmet. I'm used to a lot of the motocross style helmets, and I absolutely love the fact that the Mission has a peak. I feel like, me personally, the peak is what's missing on this helmet. And sure enough, they've got a new helmet coming out this year that's actually got a peak on it. They released the Exome this year. It's got a peak on it. This, to me, when you're in the back half of your day and you're riding into the sun, there is nothing better than an adjustable. Firstly, that visor is actually adjustable. The peak is adjustable. And all you're doing is dropping your head down, and it's basically eliminating the sun from your eyes. The sun visors, they do some of that work, but they definitely don't do it all. And I love the fact that the Mission actually comes with that peak. So you can really, you know, when you're riding into the sun, you just drop your neck just a little bit and it completely takes the sun out of the equation for you. So to me, that is like probably one of the biggest differences, I think, between the two helmets. And I absolutely love the fact that the Mission's got the visor on it. It's also, in terms of aerodynamics, it works really well because they've got a huge amount of space in between the visor and the helmet itself. And sometimes I used to notice, like with my MX style helmets, my neck at the end of the day, I'd be super sore. And that's because you're basically resisting wind the entire day riding, especially at high trail speeds. You don't notice it with this helmet, which is great. And again, that's largely because they've got venting throughout the peak itself, and they've got a big amount of space in between the helmet and that peak. So it, for, you know, high speed Quebec running, this thing works awesome. And again, I just really love the fact that the Mission's got, comes with a peak. So we'll have to see where BRP's lands next year, and we'll have to probably try that helmet too. But that was certainly a big differentiator for me, and one thing I absolutely love about this helmet. All right, so that's in terms of kind of visibility on both helmets. They both have, these both have amber visors for sun visors. However, we did change out, and I played around last year with the BRP Oxygen. You can put a smoke visor in there as well. Kind of a nice feature if you don't want to go with sort of that yellow tinted sun visor. So that's quite nice. The next kind of category I'll talk a little bit about is the difference between, you know, internal temperatures of the helmet and the ventilation, which obviously has a significant amount to do with that. And the one thing I really noticed with the oxygen, and it's not even just the carbon, it's all the oxygen helmets, it's really poorly vented helmet, okay? There's only really one adjustment for venting underneath here, which allows just a bit of air through it, if any, and you won't even notice it. I hardly notice when this thing's open, any air really coming through and circulating throughout this helmet. This is a very hot helmet. In fact, I find that it's just too hot for my liking. But there is a benefit in those really super ultra cold temperatures. On those days, this is the helmet that you want for sure, because it really does produce a lot of heat inside the helmet, and the internal temps, you know, will be really great on those extra cold days. So that is, you know, again, it's kind of something you have to think about, right? For me, when I'm riding, I'm an active rider, I sweat a lot. And so I find myself sweating immediately in an oxygen helmet on any kind of a normal riding day. I think the Mission has a really good balance for internal temperature. I don't ever find myself too warm or too cold in this helmet. It is a colder helmet, period. I mean, full stop. This helmet is definitely a colder helmet. It lets more air in. It has more ventilation options. So it's got, you know, a couple of different vents on the front here by the nose piece. And you can open up or close both of those, which let a good amount of air in through the helmet. So the ventilation on this is awesome. Plus, you know, they've got this whole design, right, with that nose piece where everything sort of vents out the back. So again, a really sort of well-designed helmet in terms of overall ventilation, but you will notice that this is a colder helmet. Now, with that, you know, with the ventilation, I would say it also helps with some of the intermittent freezing that you're gonna see sometimes, or fogging on those sun visor. And that I noticed a little bit with the Mission helmet, because the oxygen has that built-in sort of heated garage. Once that area actually warms up, you're not gonna see that, fog. And again, because it's a warmer helmet on the inside, that sun visor is not gonna ever really fog or ice up. I've had it happen on multiple occasions with the Mission when you're rolling with the sun visor down, that it hasn't been perfectly clear. And I did start to develop, you know, some fog or some icing on it. And so that was, you know, certainly different. And again, that's gonna be really, I'm talking super ultra cold temperatures. So, so for temperatures and venting, like hopefully that's something that, that you think about. It's certainly, you know, I would say the Mission is going to be kind of a better balanced helmet in terms of temperature. This is definitely going to be a much warmer helmet to wear. But again, you can see that depending on the day, you might choose one over the other, and that's kind of where my head's at. All right, let's move on to sound, because sound is a big topic. And, you know, when BRP first released the oxygen, one of the big claims was that, you know, this is a really, almost like a soundproof type of design for the helmet. And it is. It works super well. This is a really quiet helmet. Now, I think a lot of it also has to do with the ventilation. So because this helmet doesn't vent as much as this one, it's quieter. This helmet, the Mission CKX, is a much louder helmet. Because the ventilation is going through, it's noisier. That might be annoying for some guys. You know, some guys, they really might prefer that kind of soundproofing. It's funny, when you clip down that BRP mask, that shield, you can tell right away when you start talking that everything is so contained, and it really does a great job for soundproofing. I think, you know, one of the other things when it comes to sound is communications are super important to us. So we all run cardos. We're talking to each other all day long on the intercom, but we're also playing music while we're riding, and that's a big deal to us. Might not be for some folks, but for us, it's huge. And definitely, I would say the oxygen design for communicators is definitely a step above the Mission. And you will certainly, because it's a quieter helmet, you will notice that you can hear much better when people are talking over the intercom. The way that they've structured those ear pads to have a spot to put in your speakers, awesome design on the BRP helmet. Definitely a step up in terms of what you're getting on the Mission. And again, because the Mission is a noisier helmet, you're not going to hear things as clearly when it comes to music or when it comes to your other riders on the communicators in the Mission like you would with the Oxygen. Now, the other thing that's super important too is the placement of that microphone for your Cardo or for your Uclear. It's much easier to install and place that microphone in a BRP helmet on an Oxygen in comparison to the Mission. And that's because that breath box, when it comes down, again, we had to find that we had to really position it perfectly in order to get as good a sound as we could from the microphone in the Mission. But on the BRP helmet, you don't really need to worry about it because you don't have to deal with that breath box in the front. So again, I would say if communicators are important to you, the BRP Oxygen is going to do a better job overall when it comes to the communicators. Now, one tip, and it took us a while to get there, that I found also with the BRP Oxygen, when it comes to music, I like loud music. And you know, I played in a band for a long time. I'm used to just loud music, and I love loud music. So one of the things I noticed between the two is actually when I'm just standing here with the helmets on and I put my music on and I put it, let's say, to full blast on my phone, it was louder in the Mission. And I was like, what is going on here? How could that be? And when I started to look at the design on the Oxygen, Jesse and I were playing around with this earlier this year, there's actually something that covers the speaker. When you put the speaker into the earpiece, you end up covering it again with kind of a layer of foam. And we found out and we figured out early this year that that's really the big difference. So what I ended up doing on this helmet this year is Jesse and I basically, we started drilling holes through that piece so that basically I wouldn't have anything really covering the speaker as much. And eventually we just got to a point where we just ripped it out entirely. So now it's just the speaker that's sitting inside of that ear cup, and it's now just as loud as I would expect it to be on my Mission. So that's after running these helmets for a few years that I literally just figured that out kind of earlier at the beginning of this season with this particular helmet. And now I can honestly say they're both equally as loud, because one of the things I was complaining about over the years was I could never really hear my music as loud as I wanted it in the Oxygen helmet. So once we got that fixed, this thing's been it's been great. So that's a couple of points just on sound. Now, one of the other things I did notice too that I really liked about the Mission is they actually give you a spot to put your mount for your Cardo. So they've actually got like a bit of like a cutout almost, and the placement of this is perfect. You don't need to sticky mount it onto the helmet like you do on the Oxygen. So I really like that. It's just, you know, they've got a really nice spot for the clip where you have your mount on it. It just pops right up in there. And I thought that was actually pretty slick design with the Mission. So super easy to kind of mount that communicator itself, and it works great when you're going to set up the helmet with comms. So the last thing I'll talk a little bit about is, and this is very specific to Jesse and I because we run a YouTube channel and GoPros are important to us. It's really the livelihood of this channel, right? In order for us to make awesome videos and have great sound quality, we really need helmets that are going to work well when it comes to miking ourselves up and you know, being able to talk to you guys while we're actually riding along on the trail. And because the Oxygen is a quieter helmet, we do find that the actual sound quality from our GoPros is much better on the Oxygen in comparison to the Mission helmets.
Even though this trail hasn't been groomed, I mean, it's still got just a bit of fresh snow over it. And it's still pretty mid. Again, lots of K really quickly up here. It's just been absolutely beautiful running, just to give you a bit of a taste.
So again, because these are louder, noisier, and you've got the wind and the ventilation going through this helmet, the sound quality for our videos we noticed this year sometimes when we're using this helmet, not as good as it is with the BRP oxygen helmet. So for all the guys who are out there doing YouTube stuff like we are, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, either of these helmets, this one's certainly going to perform better when it comes to your GoPro mic audio quality. All right, so I think that's hopefully, you know, some pretty detailed and good information for you around sound. Let's talk a little bit about electric visors. So both of these helmets come with electric visors. Both work really well. Obviously, we love, you know, E-Link, right? Has been a great addition for us, where basically we can keep everything attached now. So we'll run our electric visor cord for the oxygen down the back of our jacket, and basically it's plugged in. You can get off the sled with your E-Link key, and you know, everything is just connected pretty seamlessly. It's really just one plug onto the sled. So that's a really, really nice feature. We love the magnetic mount on the back. Works really well. And what Jesse was sort of, you know, telling me earlier on, for him, I mean, he doesn't even unclip anything. He just literally, when he's done riding, he'll pop his helmet off and that magnet will automatically unclip. For me, you know, I'm obviously reaching behind, really easy to undo it. And then, you know, same thing on the Mission, you're back to kind of your normal RCA plug. So definitely some differences, right, with how they connect in terms of getting the electric visors to work. I think one of the things that I really like about the BRP oxygen is you've got multiple settings, right, on that controller. So you've got, you know, low, medium, and high settings where you can control how much heat is actually going to the visor. Now, obviously, we run them most of the time on medium or the highest setting. Haven't really found that on the low setting it's enough to kind of keep it clear. That's only going to be on a really warm day. But really like the ability of kind of having having the ability to adjust your heat settings on that controller. I think also, you know, you want to make sure that basically this helmet has to be plugged in or it's going to fog, period. What I think is really cool and really, really interesting is the design of this Mission helmet, and I tested it a bunch of times this year. This helmet does not need to even be plugged in, which is crazy. So, you know, that's a big one, right? If something happens with your cord, let's say, on your oxygen, you know, firstly, it's $100 to replace it. Secondly, you absolutely cannot run this helmet without a cord. It's gonna fog. Yeah, sure, maybe you can crack the bottom, but you're gonna be cold. It's gonna let all that cold air in. That will work to a certain degree. And again, it's gonna depend on the type of day, but you absolutely need a cable to run this helmet and run it properly so that you can see. This helmet, you don't even need the electric visor, which is pretty cool. The other thing is, because this is the older style RCA design, you actually don't have to worry too much when you need a backup cable. So I had one break this year. I carry 3 of these in my sled. So it's just a regular RCA cable connection, just like they've been for 20 years, 30 years, is really nice. And it makes it easy when it comes to backup cables or replacing the cable. Again, with the BRP oxygen, that's a pretty hefty unit, right? And it's about $100 to replace it. So it can be costly, and you absolutely have to run it with that one. So what I did do is, you know, I don't know if you guys had seen on any of my previous sleds, I didn't do it on this one, but because you're plugging in, I like to run a spare port also on the sled just in case. So sometimes what I'll actually do is I'll run something off the battery with an RCA cable, just so I can plug into that as a backup source in case something happens with the E-Link, or you know, I need another basically power source. It's just something, again, I always like to have backups of everything. So it's just something that I do. But it's nice to know that if that were to happen, I wouldn't really need to use anything with the Mission. So it's kind of a good peace of mind, right, for backup cords. What else can I say just in terms of electric visors? I think we had, we didn't talk about it too much, but you've probably read a lot about these visors delaminating, and holy cow, we had some issues with the BRP oxygen visors. Jesse's been through a number of them. I went through 2 or 3 of them. These things delaminate, and it's just, if you feel the material on the inside of that visor, this almost feels like it has like this really light plastic layer. I don't know if it's just the quality. I'm not really sure what it is, but the reality is a lot of guys have gone through a lot of visors with this helmet. And sure, BRP's warrantying them for 4 years. We'll talk a little bit about warranty in a second, but it's just a huge pain in the butt, right? So haven't seen, as many issues yet with the visors at least, but I know on that first year, second year release of these helmets, there were a ton of issues with the visors. So again, something to consider. Definitely, it's not a new story. You've probably seen a bunch of threads online, guys talking about replacements for their visors. So definitely, something to certainly keep in mind. Okay, so I think that's going to cover off, everything kind of around the electric visors that we noticed. I think the last thing I wanted to talk about was just, the warranty and the customer service. And we've had, again, experience with both, and we'll share that experience with you today. So again, with the BRP oxygen helmets, when we had the visors delaminate, really easy. Call the dealer, get into your local dealer, they'll warranty it, they'll give you a new visor. Sometimes we have to leave the helmet. They need to do a quick inspection, check some things out just to confirm. Pretty much every time you're getting a new visor. Pretty easy. You can go to any local BRP dealer anywhere, right? Now with the Mission, so a guy who rides with us, Jeff, who you've seen in the videos, he bought this helmet last year, or he bought a Mission helmet last year and had an issue immediately with his visor. Now that helmet was purchased at a dealer, and the warranty through CKX was a huge pain. He could not get through to anybody directly at CKX to deal with them himself. He had to go through his dealer. He had a whole bunch of issues even just working with his dealer to try and get a replacement mask. I don't know what took like so long to do this, but it basically took him 9 months before he ever was able to even get a replacement visor, a replacement shield for his helmet. So something to be aware of was, this is our experience. We did not have a great experience working with CKX as it relates to warranty claims. It was a much bigger pain to get that electric shield replaced. And so, we want you guys to just be aware of it. But, the support network for BRP going into any dealership to be able to get a replacement, yes, it's a pain in the butt, but it's not as big of a pain in the butt as it is to work with CKX on that. So, certainly, for replacement and warranty stuff, it's great because you can just go through your skidoo dealer and away you go. So, so again, take that with a grain of salt, but just know that you might encounter some challenges dealing with them for any warranty issues you need. So, guys, like a lot of miles already on these helmets this year, and I absolutely love both of them. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there really is no clear winner in this game. These are both the top of the line helmets. They both serve a purpose. I think for me, I'll continue to run both, and here's why. Days where I'm out riding and it's not a super ultra cold day, I'm probably gonna be rocking the Mission helmet, right? It's a great helmet overall. If, we got to do video work, it's a super cold day, this is going to be the better helmet for us, right? And so for Jesse and I, we're fortunate enough that we've been able to get our hands on both of them. We're going to keep both of them. We're going to continue running both of them. But really, I think for you need to sort of take in, hopefully, all the information that we've been able to put together for you today to figure out what is actually going to make the most sense for you. And for us, because we're sled addicts, we're going to keep both. We're going to continue to run both. And there's just going to be days where we prefer to run the Mission versus the Oxygen, and there's going to be days where we prefer to run the Oxygen versus the Mission. You know, coming up for spring riding right now, I'm getting ready to go to Cochrane for the week. You know, I'm not really going to be doing a lot of video work up there. I'm going to be running the Mission helmet. Simple as that. You know, but I think for us, we've really enjoyed, you know, putting a lot of miles. At least I put a lot of miles on both of these helmets this season. They both perform really well. And I think for you guys, I'm hoping that you can just take the information that we put together today in this video and hopefully use that to your advantage so that you're able to make your own informed decision about which helmet is going to be a better fit for you. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you're getting a couple more rides in before the season actually comes to a close. And if you have any questions at all just about either of these helmets, definitely reach out to Jesse and I. We're happy to answer any questions or help you if you're thinking about making a decision for either one of these helmets. Again, carbon fiber Mission helmet, carbon fiber BRP helmet, the Oxygen. These are the two best helmets we've used to date. Absolutely love them both. And thanks for watching the video, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
If you liked that video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the Sledaddicz YouTube channel, where we release content on everything snowmobiling. Also, hit that bell icon so you can be updated every time we release new videos.